Right, I think we will begin. Hello and welcome to today's weekly live show at the later time as we have our special guest zooming in from the US today. Angela, good evening, my lovely. If you are new here, my name is Laura Green. I am a yoga teacher. I've been teaching for about 12 years. I've been practicing yoga for, I can't believe it, 22 years. And you know, with every passing year, I realize I know even less, which is why we're so lucky to be able to speak to people with special topics like Andrew. So I am just going to head back to my Zoom screen, but feel free to comment, ask any questions as we go, and I will keep nipping in and out. But today we have Dr. Andrew McGonigle, who is here to talk to us about yoga and physiology. We're going to start quite basic and then see where we end up, because this is a very big topic for 30 minutes. Andrew, thank you so much for being with us. We are very, very lucky to train with you. And yeah, please go ahead and introduce yourself for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of meeting you yet.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Laura. It's great to chat with you again. Yeah, so I'm Andrew. I originally trained as a medical doctor and worked for a short time as a doctor and kind of ran away screaming. It just wasn't the right fit for me. So anyway, you know, kind of been a really interesting journey over the last couple of decades for me. I now teach anatomy and physiology, you know, full-time basically to yoga teachers and trainees. So yeah, it's really wonderful. And I've kind of had the pleasure actually, which surprised me, of writing 2 books over the last couple of years. So my second book is just kind of arriving in the UK, which is really exciting. So yeah, so that's kind of my world really, which is
so between being a medical doctor and now teaching anatomy to yoga teachers full time, you have taught yoga in that as well, haven't you? You are a qualified yoga teacher. Yeah,
I taught yoga kind of full time in London for about a decade.
And now you're in the US. Are you teaching classes as well? Are people getting spoiled with a class with you?
No, I'm not actually. So I've been in LA for 3 years, and as I came here, I was waiting for my green card. So I'm not, you know, in that period, you're not able to work, and you're not allowed to leave the country either at the same time. I was like, okay, it's intense. But basically, when my green card arrived, it was in the middle of the pandemic. So it's been an unusual 3 years. It's kind of been a kind of atypical 3 years here. It's been great overall, but no, it hasn't been like a normal journey for me. But to be honest with you, when I moved here, I just really wanted a kind of fresh slate. And I wanted to kind of move away from teaching public classes and focus more, you know, my energy more on teachers.
Yeah. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of sitting at your feet in an in-person course in London. And oh my God, I learned so much. So the work that you are putting out there is absolutely transforming how we're teaching. And, you know, part of the goal with the Yoga Teacher Collaborative is to always be elevating the teaching of yoga. You know, more and more we're hearing about, can yoga be socially prescribed in the NHS? And the more we understand the physiology, the science, and blend these two worlds together, the further we can take yoga, I believe, as well. Before we kind of go into the physiology side, so we understand the perspective you're coming from, what do you love about yoga?
Yeah, so what yoga means to me has really evolved, you know, over the years, as I'm sure most of us, you know, recognize with our own journey. And right now, yoga is just this amazing, almost like container for me, just to really tune in, like to kind of like get rid of all the distractions, come into my body, come into my breath, like really sit with how I'm doing, what emotions are coming up, you know, how is my spiritual well-being. So for me, it's just this really special time to connect with myself, but then also obviously kind of connect outwards as well. You know, in the past, yoga, like if you rewind like 15 years ago, yoga for me was like everything. I felt like it needed to tick all the boxes, you know. It needed to be my cardio, it needed to be my strength training, it needed to be something that centered me. You know, and now I do other things to stay active, and I do my yoga practice just to really kind of come into my body. So it's been really fascinating watching that, you know, shift and change.
I think that's so normal. I remember years ago being asked by a student, do you do anything else aside from yoga? And I felt that the answer they wanted was, oh, no, I do only yoga. Yoga gives me everything. Whereas, yeah, no, actually, I go to a gym, do all these other things as well. So actually, your yoga practice is very much more than just the physical, even though when you're teaching teachers, it's a lot about the physical body.
Yeah, I think like really when I do a practice with yoga teachers now, it's more from a somatic place. So it's really applying, say if we've looked at the lower limb, it's really about really trying to like embody that information. So it's coming, more of like really honing into like small movements and really connecting with that. So yeah, so it's fun to look at that, and it'll be interesting. Like maybe at some point soon I will start teaching more like public classes. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And it might not be that sexy for a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? People are like, oh, a lot of it's like floor based. Like if you see me do my practice, I do it out in my gorgeous little patio at the back, and it's very much on the floor. That like if you didn't know what yoga was and you watched me practice, you'd think there were no standing poses. Basically.
Yeah. No, I understand the same.
The floor, basically.
Yeah. So. No, I think my practice looks very similar to that as well. So you're said obviously you've got 2 books, the first book being about supporting students through injuries, which I find an amazing book, and it's just such a great resource. Like I don't have to delve into the conflicting world of Google. I can just go, I know Andrew, I trust Andrew, I've got a student with this issue, I'm going to go to the book. Google, I don't need you right now. But your second book is a much broader ranging topic from something so specific. I love that you've got it in your hand. But from something so specific of supporting students with injuries to now such a broad topic of, yoga and physiology. Can we look at, I struggle to even spell the word physiology. What is physiology? How is it different to anatomy? And what on earth is biomechanics?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So my interpretation of physiology is essentially like the science of living organisms. I see it as how the systems of the body are functioning.
Yes, so could maybe anatomy be the systems, and physiology how they're functioning?
That's how and there are different ways of looking at it. For me, I think of anatomy as architecture.
Yeah, okay.
I think of anatomy as like more, a bit more of like the physical structure. So the anatomy of a muscle is really how the muscle's made up. To me, the physiology of a muscle is how it functions and behaves and the processes are involved. That's how I see it. And other people look at it slightly differently. Biomechanics really is like an umbrella term under which anatomy and physiology kind of sit. So, God, I don't even know what my definition of biomechanics would be. I've got Jules Mitchell's book here. I wonder what she says in it. But it's really, biomechanics is almost like an overarching science that covers all of that. And it also involves physics and all this kind of stuff. So we're talking about load, and we talk about, what happens to the body through different functions. So yeah, it's really interesting, but really they all kind of overlap and
I love that what you said about architecture though. So I love something so simple, which is why your teaching just resonates with me. So if I think of my house, the anatomy is the architecture of my house, and the physiology is about how we're living within it, how it's supporting our living, the changes in temperature, the rhythm, how we're living beings in it.
Yeah, the electricity, the plumbing, the lighting, all the things that are happening, the heating, and how that, how all that functions and all kind of is interconnected in some way.
Okay, now this probably seems like a very simple question, and I asked this on my teacher training, and I ask it almost, can't think of the word, when you don't expect an answer. And I'm surprised when sometimes I do get an answer and it's not the one I expect. As yoga teachers, is it important for us to understand anatomy and physiology? And for me, it's default, yes. But sometimes I get the answer no. So Is it important for us to understand anatomy and physiology as yoga teachers?
Yeah, I really do think it is important to have some basic understanding. It doesn't mean that you have to know every name of every muscle, or even really fully understanding exactly where your spleen is, for example, like that, so that isn't always that helpful. But I think having a general understanding, because I think there's a lot of, we've talked about this before, there's just a lot of kind of fear in yoga, and there's also a lot of stuff that's spread that isn't particularly true. Sometimes that can be harmless, and sometimes that can be actually quite harmful. So I think having a basic understanding helps us to kind of find clarity through all of that. And then, when you have a question about something, it helps you to kind of start to help maybe find potential answers to that, other than going on this kind of complete rabbit hole in Google, and you kind of come out the other end and it's like 3 days later, and you've got, and you're even less clear. So I definitely think it does help. And I think for me, it just reminds me of how incredible our bodies are.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel very humble, and it just excites me. And then I pass that excitement on to the people.
Yeah. And that's where I think yoga's been a massive connecting point for me. And I think back to biology and school, and I didn't like biology. I couldn't learn it. I wasn't interested. I just wasn't interested. And I knew, and I think most people are the same, very little about my body. And when we know little about the body, we don't really respect it that well. But because I love yoga, learning about anatomy and physiology through the lens of yoga and movement suddenly opened a gateway into learning about the physical body. And then it blows my mind. And she said, so thankful to have a human body. And then I want to respect it and love it and cherish it and look after it.
Yeah, completely. Like I have the same journey, or similar journey. At medical school, we spent a lot of time in the dissection labs. I wasn't really that interested. It just was so dry, and it was all being related really to disease and illness. But then when I trained as a yoga teacher, it just reignited this passion. And when I was seeing it through the lens of something that I loved, and through movement and wellness, it just took on a whole different life. And that was really exciting.
Yeah. And I think that's something we can pass on to our students. The more we learn about anatomy and physiology, the more in our teaching and our classes, we can share snippets, so that we're opening up students to have that journey into their own body and anatomy.
Yeah, for sure.
So under the first title of your book, there is then a subtitle, an evidence-based look at how yoga affects health and well-being. So I'm going to start with an overarching question. Does yoga have a positive effect on our health and well-being in an evidence-based way?
Yeah, overall, it really does. Like, some of the claims that are made can't really be fully backed up. But yeah, it really does have a positive well-being, has a ripple effect, and there's a lot of great research out there that's really exciting. There's definitely more research that needs to be done for full clarity. Even just, thinking of yoga as movement without all the other wonderful elements that we know are part of the practice. Movement is medicine. Moving the body, being active, is one of the most important things that we can all do for health and well-being. So just think on that level, and then we know there's all these amazing elements that come on top of that are just, the icing on the cake, and the candles and the sparkles and everything.
Yeah, when obviously you wrote the foreword for my book on teaching chair yoga, and there's a section in there on the anatomy of aging. And as I was writing it, I was getting so horrified by every disease and condition I was going through was exacerbated by a sedentary lifestyle. Increased risk if you have a sedentary lifestyle. Yeah. And lots of people are put off by the idea of exercise. I started yoga because I didn't like exercise. Sure. So as a doctor, if you were to say to somebody, you should try yoga for the following health benefit, what's the number one thing you think yoga is great for from health and well-being?
Stress. I would say it's probably one of the most beneficial things we can do
So what do we know on an evidence base about yoga and easing stress?
Yeah, there's a lot of really great studies, you know. So what in the first part of the book, we look at critical thinking. And I really love this because this is empowering the reader to kind of go on their own journey with that, whenever they want to like look up a topic. And basically, there's a pyramid that's often used of evidence, and the top of the pyramid is something called systematic review. And so, or it can also be something called a meta-analysis. But if we very quickly look at what a systematic review is, it's basically when typically a group of people will hone in on a topic, and they will search these databases to look at every study that's been done within given parameters on that topic. And then they filter that for certain qualities, like quality control. And then they basically review all of that and present it and make a conclusion based on it. So what we've tried to do in the book where possible is find systematic reviews. So example, we found systematic reviews about yoga and stress, and the results are really positive. Now, when that isn't available, then you move down the pyramid, you know, to different like individual studies and things. And then at the bottom is anecdotal stuff. So, my cousin found that yoga helped her relieve stress. Now that is evidence, but it's anecdotal. It's the bottom of the pyramid. We only go there when there isn't better quality research above that available to us. And also at the bottom is expert opinion. So what's interesting is the last couple of decades, there's been a lot of expert opinion shared about yoga, and people end up thinking, okay, this is like kind of proven, and it's not necessarily proven. And the great thing is that over the years, like we've been able to move up the pyramid because there's more and more high quality research being done, and then eventually we can look at this kind of gold standard.
Because I guess if there's no anecdotal evidence, no one's going to bother taking it to higher levels of studies.
Exactly. This is the real benefit of expert opinion and anecdotal, is that it starts conversation, and it will often inspire research to be done to actually go, well, can we gather evidence about this? So that's the really exciting thing. So, you know, we can't, you know, anecdotal evidence always has its place, but we can only give it so much power.
And I guess sitting in anecdotal is my own personal experience, my own personal anecdotal, or is that still in there?
Yeah, and no one can take that away from you. You know, if you, and that's what we talk about that in the book. Like if you find that there are certain benefits personally from doing something, we're not trying to take that away from you. Like, go for it. Like, keep doing what you're doing if you're getting a positive outcome. But we're just trying to clarify the conversation, really, and just add to it.
And I think that's really powerful in the journey of yoga, you know, but taking, you know, something for as simple as legs up the wall pose, which is often a cure all. Do this for back pain, do this at the end of a day, do this for jet lag, do this for restless leg syndrome. But, you know, if in my personal experience, when I practice legs up the wall, I notice the swelling and puffiness in my ankles decreases. That's my own personal evidence.
And there is research with that. You know, it's inversions do help with venous return, so that will help blood flow back to the heart. So that's something that we can say quite confidently that is, you know, that there is research that, but also because you know that it works for you, that's amazing. Maybe you don't even need to know the research behind it. But I think if you are teaching other people and you're saying, come to this workshop that's going to help you decrease ankle swelling, I think you have to have a really clear understanding of what that means and what the kind of science tells us. Otherwise, we're kind of getting into dodgy territory.
Dodgy territory on multiple levels. Firstly, just that presumption that your experience of something is going to be the same in other people's bodies. You know, I often struggle with my back, and there's certain things that really help my back that could actually be the complete opposite for someone else if they were having back pain.
And give that as a suggestion, and we can share personal experience. And I think that's a really lovely way to connect with people or students, but it doesn't mean that it's always going to work for everyone else.
And that brings me back to you and language. You're the genius that educates me on the use of my language, but saying things like legs up the wall pose might help. Try this. It might be nice for you. It works for me, rather than practice locust pose every day for 6 weeks and your back pain will go, which I have heard.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's just very, very little research done looking at specific poses and benefits is something I really remove myself from. Yes, inversions do help with increased venous return because of you're suddenly working with gravity, but basically, beyond that, it gets harder and harder to go, okay, this position or this movement has this benefit. It's very hard to really back that up.
Is there any you specifically hear all the time that you're just like, oh no? Like I think I said to you, I always get told to do bridge pose for my thyroid.
Oh yeah, that's a common one. It's the classic, do a twist and it's going to detox your liver. And I'm like, how is that happening? Because I think what we do is like we forget that the body is incredible and it's doing all these processes without our conscious control. Like if your body wasn't already really efficient at detox, you'd be critically ill. So yes, yoga as part of the healthy lifestyle can keep your detoxification systems working optimally. That's great, and it's really important that we keep moving and keep doing the things that work for us. But there isn't this kind of quick fix, and also people aren't even going to tell you what these toxins are that we're trying to get rid of. So it's just this whole gray area, and that's what I have a problem with. I see these workshops on yoga for detoxification, and then maybe people think, well, I can just, I said this thing, detox to retox. Maybe people are, oh, I can take all this crap into my body, but as long as I twist every week, then it's going to get rid of it. So that's where it can become kind of harmful.
That makes me think of another one I'd love to ask you, because yes, the twisting poses are great for detox. I've heard that one loads. Another one I'd love to know is Kapalabhati breath of fire, strong core practices, twisting. Does that have any connection to metabolism and boosting our inner fire and our Agni? This will boost your metabolism, I've heard a lot, around core work. It makes me feel happier about doing core work, because then I can eat a burger later because my metabolism's on fire.
That's a really interesting topic. If I'm honest, I don't even know if it's something we cover. We do look at Kapalabhati because there are claims that it reverses the aging process. We've looked at, but basically, I don't know. Like, I don't even know how much research in general is done looking at metabolism and things that can boost it. Again, I just think it's all about like being active.
Yeah.
Like if you're active, your metabolism is going to hopefully be working as well as it can. Are there certain things that can boost that? I'm just not sure. I think
that's so important. You said about coming back to just movement.
On the next edition of the book, we'll put a bit about metabolism.
Metabolism.
So again, and I think, look, we talked about this before we came on live. I'm not saying that everything has to be proven with science. Like I'm the first person to go to the astrology person down the road. I am the first person to go to the psychic or have my tarot cards read. I love doing personal chakra meditation. It doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? So I have the science background, but also I love all these mystical kind of wisdom traditions that we can't really explain. And I think it also keeps us humble as humans when we can't explain these things. But I've got benefits from all of that. And, I'm not saying that we have to throw that out. We're just having a particular conversation here, which is saying, well, there are these claims made about yoga. Let's see if there is research or not on this. And if there is, let's see what the research says, and I hope we've done a good job as you read the book and kind of having that tone. Like we're not trying to be some authority here. And also really like Matt here co-wrote the book with, he's just a wonderful human being, Matt Huey. We had to remind ourselves that really all we're doing is collating other people's work. We didn't create anything for this book. We just kind of pulled together information that's already out there that other people's kind of labor we pulled together and kind of packaged it for people. I don't know why I'm going down that avenue, but yeah. Just wanted to
I,
say
I
that.
just think it's so powerful because we can end up really swinging between two opposites. And I think this is part of the problem with the internet and clickbait is we
Yeah.
swing from you're right, you're wrong, rather than there being like just this spectrum of different experiences.
And I definitely get pushback from people, which is fine. It's part of the process. I did a post recently saying, basically, can yoga boost your immune system? Now, the issue I have with that kind of statement is that a lot of people say it without being clear on what that means. Okay. Now, again, as part of a healthy, balanced lifestyle, yoga can help your immune system work optimally. Yoga is not a superpower in terms of the immune system. It can't boost it beyond optimal. And in fact, on a physiological level, you wouldn't want your immune system boosted beyond optimal. You basically feel crap. You'd have a runny nose. You'd have basically all these responses we have, say, with hay fever. You'd feel like that all the time. It can lead to depression, all these things. And my issue is that if you say something like yoga can boost your immune system without kind of clarifying what that means, someone might even go to the extreme of thinking, well, I'm practicing yoga every day, therefore I don't have to take any COVID precautions because it's going to stop me getting COVID. No, I'm sorry, yoga, you can still practice yoga every day and get COVID. You know what I mean? So it's just, again, having a bigger conversation, going a little bit deeper, understanding these kind of terms that can get thrown out there. And yeah, yoga can have a positive impact on the immune system in terms of helping it work optimally, but it doesn't give us those kind of superpowers. And I got a lot of pushback from people going, no, no, no. And then a lot of people also saying, that I was culturally appropriating, which is something that I definitely wasn't. There was never an intention to do that. I don't think anyone would intend to culturally appropriate. But really, if you want to go there, I'm like, well, let's talk about ahimsa. Ahimsa is no harm. And if you're making these very confident claims that are unsubstantiated, you are potentially causing harm. So really, we're just, again, adding to the conversation so that we can all be really clear on what it is we're saying. And it doesn't mean that we have to be, that we're disrespecting the tradition because of that.
And everything learns and evolves. And I think we end up in this place where we really want to respect ancient teachings, but know that things have learned and evolved. This is where this came from. This is a thought. This is what we've learned now. This is how these blend together. Everything is an evolution. And just because something's ancient doesn't mean it can't evolve with respect and learning.
Completely. And another thing I get from people often is, and it's kind of a bad argument, is that people say, well, what about the placebo effect? Like, if I believe so strongly that this pose is boosting my immune system, surely it's going to give me that benefit. And I'm like, yeah, but we can't really use that as a justification, because then Mars could say, okay, we're going to put on our packaging, eat a Mars bar every day and it'll lower your blood pressure. And if people believe that, it's going to happen. That's not how the world works. You know what I mean? Like, we can't use the placebo effect is super powerful, but we can't use that as kind of a justification for making, again, unsubstantiated claims or things.
And I think that's the real takeaway. And that's where you start your book with critical thinking, is to question the Chinese whispers, to consider what evidence is there, and to be, and this is why I like to have your books, because it stops me having to Google, because I realize there's so much outdated information. The teachings around, the left and the right hand hemisphere of the brain, and one being logical and one being creative. I only realized recently that was all thrown out in the 1960s, I think. But you still Google today now, Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. Breathe through your left nostril. This is stimulating the hemisphere of the brain for rest and relaxation. Because nothing gets taken off Google.
Yeah, and also, in terms of timeline for when research is done, it can take decades for that to move into mainstream education. Even say talking about physical therapy or physiotherapy, it can take a long time for current research that's been done about muscles to actually come into the training for physios. It can take 15 years for that. So it's just, we have to recognize that is what happens. Like, there's sometimes when you see this latest research, you're like, oh, why does everyone not know that now?
Yeah,
that would be wonderful. But it just takes time for these things to really become mainstream.
yeah. I'm going to do a quick fire round with you. If you could hold your book up for me, your newest book, that would be. Yeah. So if some of you will see this when you get this in your hands soon, you'll see there is 5 versions of a human in some way holding Nutter Adjust in a dancer's pose. You've clearly chosen there that you've got the organ body, the skeletal body, you've got the muscles, you've got the nervous system. So why did you choose to put all of those systems on your front cover? Does yoga make a difference in the nervous system, organ body, skeletal system, muscular system?
Yeah, basically, yeah, I kind of came up with that idea because I just wanted people to kind of glance at the book and pretty much know what it was about. Yeah, no, it does. There is, we've obviously, each chapter takes you on a journey through a different system of the body. And yeah, there definitely is pretty good research out there showing that yoga has a positive impact on each system. It might not be exactly what you think it is, but there is stuff out there. So reproductive system, there is quite a bit of research on, yoga and dysmenorrhea. I
don't know what that is.
Basically, when you say have painful periods.
Okay.
And can a yoga practice help you to manage that in some way? So yeah, it's amazing how much research is out there on yoga, looking at specific, systems of the body. And that's really what we've done. We've kind of trod through like hundreds of studies. Again, really trying to go for the best quality, trying to find like systematic reviews where we can. And, in terms of the endocrine system, the adrenal glands are obviously a huge part of the endocrine system and very closely linked with the nervous system. And yeah, there is a lot of research on yoga for stress, as we talked about. So yeah, we've really tried to tease that out, and we've tried to highlight just where there isn't research. Yes. And maybe down the line, research will be done on those areas where there are gaps. That will be exciting.
Yeah, it's nice to actually see where those gaps are, and that can drive something forwards.
Yeah, and we look at the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system is fascinating. It's equally as important as every other system, but for various reasons, it has been in a way neglected in terms of research. There is a fraction of the research on the lymphatic system compared to the cardiovascular system, but it's just as important as the cardiovascular system. So in terms of looking at lymphatic system in yoga, there's very, very little, if anything, out there on it. But we've, looked at how, like, what the latest research tells us on how the lymphatic system operates, and are there things that can influence it or not, So yeah, we just, we tried our best to, delve into each system as much as we could.
I think it's such a powerful book. And again, it's just having this, I feel like I have you in my house. When I have your books on my bookshelf, I have a trusted resource to go to. So they're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a lot that we've covered for today. If somebody wanted to get the book, what is the best way that they pre-order? Can they get it in the UK yet?
Yeah. So it's we're at this weird time. So the book is published. It's all been printed in America, so it's widely available in America. The first shipment has just arrived in the UK, so it'll go to a distributor, and then it will head out to Amazon. It'll go to WH Smith, whatever, all over. So yes, I would say within the next week or two, it'll be really widely available. If you go to amazon.co.uk, it'll probably tell you something weird while they're waiting to receive stock, but just know that the book is going to be widely available like really soon. I love to order books from my local bookstore.
Yeah,
I love supporting local business. So you can do that. You can order it through Waterstones or through WH Smith or anything like that. You can order it directly from the publisher. So there are links to that on my website. Yeah, so it's this weird period where while the book's being received, no one's kind of clear. So a lot of people have pre-ordered it, and then also it's kind of randomly showing up, even though I
That's
don't.
nice though. It's like a surprise in the mail. Who doesn't like that?
Photos from people in the UK when my books are out. I'm like,
yeah,
thought that was kind of physically impossible, but apparently
early Christmas.
So yeah,
Right.
yeah, I'm excited to get it out there. And my goal for the book is to have it as a recommended reading on like most
Yeah.
teacher courses
Yeah.
internationally.
Yeah.
That will take a long time. Like we're just planting a lot of seeds. So yeah,
there's been an amazing amount of awesome books coming out in the last couple of years. I keep changing my teacher training reading list.
Yeah,
And you know, I love your books, but I have learned the most from you from actual taking trainings with you, because the stories come out, they're interactive. You also do have, now you're in LA, an anatomy course that people can do, because I know a lot of people feel that they don't have enough knowledge on anatomy from just a 200-hour teacher training.
It's been really special making the online course, because honestly, most people think it's just as good, if not better, than in person. I've really, really put a lot of energy into making it a great experience for people, and it's hybrid, so there are live elements. Also, it's more accessible for people. People don't have to travel to like a major city to see me in person, and offer scholarships and stuff. So definitely check it out. During July, I'm doing a deal where if you sign up with a friend, you both get 20% off. So you save like 90 quid, which is amazing. So if you're interested in that, email me at info at.
I'll share a link. Yeah.
Oh, you'll share the link. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really great idea about the bring a friend, because when I sign up to online courses or I want to do a replay, I'm prone to them sitting in my email inbox. So this year I've started saying to a friend, let's meet together, do this course. We'll do it at my house, and we book in a time. We're going to do it at 4 p.m. on Thursday, rather than an on-demand course or a replay. I'm like, oh, I can do it anytime. So I do it no time. But doing it with a friend, so powerful.
And you have a little accountability buddy. You know, it's a really, really great idea. So yeah, so that's going on with the course. We've got this really cool thing happening with the book, is we're doing an 8-week book club during September and October, where basically Matt and I take it in turns each week to walk you through each chapter of the book. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be live online, so we're really excited about that. And then I'm going to be back in the UK in late October doing in-person events. I'm going to do 2-day-long events, one in London and one in Milton Keynes. So one of them is up on my website, and the other will be up very soon. And then I'm going to be back doing like bigger events next spring, which I'm excited about. I miss in-person teaching.
Yeah, we miss you in England. No, that is all amazing, and I will make sure I share links just to Andrew's website, so you can see about when he'll be in England, but also the anatomy course with that discount, and of course the book as well. If you have liked learning from this approach, if this idea of looking at evidence, yoga and movement as medicine, and you are local, 31st of July, I'm teaching a yoga as medicine CPD day, and we are running tests. We will bringing our oxygen saturation monitors, blood pressure monitors, heart rate monitors. We're going to put everything to the test in this critical thinking, and just, explore that. So if you want to do that in person with me, that is the 1st of July in Southampton, a whole day. Otherwise, I'm just going to have a quick check, see if we've got any questions. Oh, yes, Laura, great question. So who funds research? Who is funding research into the health benefits of yoga?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's super, super varied. It's going to depend on what kind of research it is, where in the world it is. Yeah, it's a really good question. And that's part of critical thinking. Like when you're looking at a paper. So a good resource is Google Scholar. It is a Google database for research studies. So you can go to Google Scholar and you can put in, say, yoga for stress systematic review, and then and a lot of the research is available for you to read without having to pay for it. Then if you scroll through a study, it will say at the bottom, it'll have to talk about funding, and it'll have to talk if there's any kind of conflict or interest or bias or anything like that. So it's a really important part of critical thinking. But yeah, all sorts of things, all sorts of universities are funding, and different organizations. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah, it is. And is there any, there's a little monster that just put its hand up inside my head. Is there going to be any pushback or resistance from things like Big Pharma where yoga can give, free, accessible to all health benefits? Do you think there's any pushback?
Let's see. I know there's a new book out in the UK, isn't there? Like a prescription book for NHS. It's a yoga.
Yeah,
it's out like in Dragon. I think Heather Mason from the
Minded
Institute. Yeah, and Paul Fox, I think he used to be the director of British Wheeler Yoga. Yeah, they've got a book out that's all about basically a prescribed course for health, yoga course. So that's gonna be really interesting. I don't know much about it. Like I would really, I'd really need to delve into it and see what their study looked like to kind of comment on it. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they get any pushback. We're coming.
In the meantime, we'll keep doing our thing. We'll keep showing up, sharing yoga in the community, sharing things that may have a beneficial effect on someone's health and well-being, and just giving space for people to have their own experience as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so very much for your time, for your expertise, for being here with us. We love having you, and good luck with the book coming out in the UK as well.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you. It's been great seeing more chair yoga classes come up. I'm really, really happy with that.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So lovely to connect with you. Let's do it again soon.
We will do. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Yoga Teacher Collaborative.
Thank you so much.
Okay.